Blog Talk Radio.
Live from Washington, D.C., it's Quintessential Listening, Poetry Online Radio. Now, here's your host, Dr. Michael Anthony Ingram.
Good evening and welcome to the program. Tonight, my very special guest is Jonathan B. Tucker. Jonathan, are you with me?
Hey, I am, and I'm very happy to be here.
I am so glad that you're happy to be here. Question for you. What is poetry?
What is poetry? Poetry, to me, is really it's a type of freedom. It's a freedom of thought, a freedom of emotion and emoting, and a freedom of literature. I really come from a thing that poetry is kind of like beauty. You can recognize poetry in places that it wasn't intended maybe to be poetry. I love found poetry, and the way that we can find poetry in nature, the way that we can find beauty. And the way that we can put together concepts or we can explain feelings, there's a freedom in it that is it's very much up to whoever's viewing it or whoever's taking it in to define it as such.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Why is it important? Why is it important?
There are many different reasons that I think poetry is important. One of which I'll talk about is just healing. I think poetry is very important as a human, the same way that dance and song are very important to us as expressions. Poetry, it's a healthy thing for us to do for our mind in order to be able to make sense out of a very complex world, in order to make sense out of our emotions and our experiences in the world. As they relate to others, as they relate to ourselves, it's important that we have a way that we can feel whole, a way that we can find healing from those things that are causing us pain, and also an outlet for our joy and for it's an amazing creative outlet, but it's also one of the most ancient in terms of art forms, and so. I think it's also very important because it's the basis for a lot of our other writing, and poetry is kind of the whittled down of the art of creating concepts and making people see things.
All right. What are some of the predominant themes of your work?
Predominant themes in my work? That's a good question. I used to be very political and very everything had like a social political message that I was trying to get across. So you might see some of that coming up in my work. You might see some struggles with capitalism and racism and sexism. And then, of course, there's some love poems. Not that the political poems aren't love poems, but,
Right.
Gotta have some love poems. I'm looking through them now, like, what are my themes? I don't really... And then some are just like, sometimes I'm just playing around, and again, back to that freedom concept, sometimes I'm just playing around with words and I see what happens and I write it down and it's nice and I read it. And so, it runs the gamut. Some are very serious and like they're serious expressions of beliefs and needs of people. And then others are just like playing around, describing some things that I see,
Right. So how does a poem begin with you? With an idea, a form, or an image?
Oh, interesting. An idea. Well, definitely not a form. I'm not really into forms. But an idea or an image. I guess I would go with idea. It's easier if you have an idea. It's easier to start the poem with an idea, but that's not always how it starts. Discipline with writing is, I think, the best, and so sometimes it's forced out. But that's like an important part of the process. Is like I am writing now and forcing it out, and like so sometimes like it starts with a deadline. It starts with I'm doing this now. Like the act itself, the process, can sometimes be the driver. But ideally, it would be an idea. An idea would be driving something.
All right. Well, please share one of your works.
Yeah. So I flipped open my notebook, and it flipped to this page. This one from June 2nd of 2019. So it's like a year ago. I wrote this one. There's an underground city composed of all the pain buried by previous generations. It is monstrous and loud, but few on the surface ever hear. Explosions rip cracks in the streets daily. Love's volcanic brother releasing memories not properly stored. The records repeat 1,000 times. The ride does not stop just because you scream. There are healers working on excavation, restoring the city before it swallows us all. That's that poem.
All right. Do you sit and think through every word of every stanza, or do you write freely and allow the words to flow?
A little bit of both. It depends if I'm editing or if I'm writing. So like on the first go through writing, normally it would be more let it all out, let it go. And then when I come back for the first round of edits, I'm making it pretty. I'm slicing it up. I'm making sure that things fit and counting out the rhythm and things like that, you know?
All right. When you think about poetry and you think about writing, all poets have great writing influences. Who are some of yours and what makes them great in your eyes?
Who are some of my writing influences? That's a good question. There's a lot of poets in like the local poetry scene that I came up in here in DC, Maryland area that I very much look up to. I'm trying to think how much that has influenced my poetry, or if it's more like, you know, the music I was listening to and the books I was reading and like other poets like that. I remember when I got out of poetry for a while. I was into it in high school. Actually, even before high school, in middle school and stuff, I would write poems for like my mom for holidays and birthdays and give poems as gifts to people and stuff. But after high school, I got out of it for a while. And I wasn't into it, and I was just like, yeah, poetry was the thing I used to do, but not anymore. I didn't really see a relevance for it. And then Saul Williams got me back into it, and reading his Fed the Shotgun to the Head, and just spoken word in general. Like I got involved in slam and the national slam scene and that stuff. But I remember reading Saul's work really pushed me and got me back into saying that like I have a voice and that this is a way I need to be using it.
Right. Share another piece of your work.
Share another piece. All right. This one's called I Am. It's based on a creative writing exercise I often do with students. I'm the raindrop that never wanted to fall, a cloud-hugging airhead pumped up on oxygen. I am all fog and wind, rewinding in fast cyclones. I am a reverse tornado, an upside-down volcano, letting everything hot fall out my bottom. I am Drano, chemically cleansing dirty streets with clean words and fresh beats. I am a Brillo pad on the brain, holding noodles hostage. I am the strain after boil, the relief after toil and trouble for the status quo. I am the less being more. I am the drop of rain that never wanted to go, but nonetheless fell. I am simply blessed.
That was nice.
Thank you.
All right. Tell me about the kids that you work with, the young people that you work with.
So I've worked with young people all around the country, all over the world, in several different programs. Mostly high school students, focused on running after-school programs here in Washington, D.C. I was working with a nonprofit organization called Split This Rock, and I was working with their DC Youth Slam team. And we were starting poetry clubs at high schools all across the area here, and we were going to national competitions. And then eventually we ended up taking trips to South Africa as well. And that's a program that I've continued now with adults, not with students anymore. But yeah, I've taught elementary schools. I've taught at universities. I come from University of Maryland. I'm a Terp, and I started an organization there called Terp Poets with some friends. I was going to say Henry Mills. He was a big influence on me. He was one of the co-creators of Terp Poets poetry organization there on campus. And so I've gone back to work with them as well, and I've taught at many different universities around the area. Yeah.
All right.
I love it. I love working with students. Young people in poetry is a very fun combination, and it works well everywhere.
What do you think that you've learned about yourself from working with young people? What have you learned about who are you as a consequence, as a result of working with young people?
I've learned that I'm definitely a creative spirit.
Okay.
And the young people definitely reaffirm that, and they keep that true. But yeah, and I think also, I think I'm a little bit of a risk taker, and I think working with young people has taught me that. When especially high school age, young people are taking risks, and people are very worried about the type of risks they're taking and things like that. But it's a moment of transition. It's a big transition in life, and so it's often difficult, and there's often a lot of risks you've got to take and sacrifices you have to make to make sure you have to set yourself up for a good future and for a good time. And I think something that I've learned from working with young people. Is that I have that spirit to continually push and take those risks.
All right, very nice, very nice. Do you think that you were meant to be a poet?
I think I was meant to be a poet. I think everyone is a poet. That's something that I teach when I do my workshops and I go around. I'm a poetry ambassador, and I spread it everywhere. And when I first get in, I ask everyone to raise their hand and say, okay, like self-identify as a poet. Like, is anyone here who writes? Who writes poetry? Who's a poet? And nobody will. And I say, well, you're all a poet. You all have it in you. If you have the ability to breathe, then you have the ability to create poetry. And it's a natural thing from our use of language. It's not something that's outside of us or you have to necessarily study in order to do. It's something that you have to try and put effort in and feeling into, and that's
a poetry ambassador. And poetry ambassador, I like that. That's very nice. I like that.
Everywhere. Poetry is for everyone. It's like bread. Right?
Okay. Please share another piece of your work.
All right. I'm trying to remember which ones I wanted to do. All right. I haven't done this one. Okay. Let's see. This one's called Both Sides. Every day is a funeral and a birthday celebration. Weddings and custody battles in the court, public. Every day is a dialogue between two sides, and the jury stays out in the streets, murder and merriment, uprisings and downfalls in the same breath. Some people's lives are just a bender that lasts longer than most, passes out like the rest. We vomit and resurrect. Jesus, Jesus, like Allah, give thanks for both sides, give praise for days above water. I love you, daughter. I love you, God. I love you, me. Give thanks for both sides, the whole, the bleeding family tree. We are all repeating a dance between triumph and tragedy. Joy and jolts of trauma, constantly coping with drama and demons. We see every day, we see both, but we stay dreaming electric, style our brains eclectic, our bodies neglected, souls regularly inspected and passed, both sides, judgment passed, words written last, feelings remembered, doors locked, and years spent on a weekend bender, every hour happy with specials, half off. 2 for 1. That's that piece. That's that poem.
All right.
Okay.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back. We are back. I am Michael Anthony Ingram. I'm here with Jonathan B. Tucker.
Hey,
If you'd like to speak with Jonathan, the call-in number is 646-787-1631. Jonathan, a question for you.
Hey.
As you think about a poem, the formation of a poem, just the poem itself, what are some of the ingredients that go into making up a poem? What are some of the prevalent ingredients that go into making up a poem? What should be inside it?
Truth, feeling, definitely a feeling of some sort, an emotion, definitely a truth from the writer or the creator of the poem, a little bit of fun, a little bit of creativity, a splash of sweetness, definitely some love. Always add love. That's always an important thing to add to any recipe you got. Maybe a little bit of salt.
Okay. Right.
A little bit of salt. And if you're really feeling it, some tears. Yeah, I guess the salt can come from some tears, maybe. If you're really
some tears.
Everyone's been in that moment. Like, if you've been writing poetry long enough, you've definitely had that moment where, like, you're crying over the page and some really amazing stuff is coming out, but you got to keep writing and, like, yeah.
All right. Poets hail from all over the world. Where do you hail from?
So I was born here in D.C. I was raised out in Crofton, Maryland. It's in Anne Arundel County, but my parents are both educators in PG County. So it's like right near Bowie. But yeah, East Coast.
And how has your background here in the area influenced your poetry?
That's a good question. My poetry is very political. My poetry is very political, and I do talk about race a lot. And so growing up in such a diverse area, I remember when I went away to Boston to go to school for a little bit, and I remember just noticing the difference and coming back home and like we're not used to, but like we have a very racially, ethnically diverse area here in the DMV. And so that's something I was just used to. And, I just didn't realize how much that didn't exist elsewhere. And so I think that does come up in my work a lot. That sort of, I think I have this expectation of the rest of the world to be better because I know we can be better.
Well, it's funny. I am a native of High Point, North Carolina, but the first time that I was ever called the N-word was when I was in Boston. So you're right. It was a totally different kind of animal, to be honest.
It's cold in Boston. The people too. It's cold. The people too.
Yeah, I can understand that. Many people have different methods of writing. Some write pen to paper, others transmit to a blog first or to the internet first. How do you write?
Nowadays, I have made the transition to my phone, and a lot of the poems will be just notes on my phone because I want to just get it out quickly while it's there. But traditionally, and my best way is pen and paper. I got a lot of notebooks. I like to put the pen on the paper. That's like my process when I'm writing a piece or when I get commissioned for a piece is definitely to write it out in the notebook like once or twice, and then when I'm transferring it to the computer, when I'm typing it up, that's another round of edits while typing it up. Yeah.
All right. Well, share another piece of your work.
I will do that. Which one? Okay. Wait, this one or I'm gonna do this one. I haven't done this one in a while. After writing my life, I edit my atmosphere, rearrange reality and her spaces to save words, to harness the power of breath, to remove unneeded pieces, a curator of live audio visual life decor. I cut entire sections, months and years as stanzas, simply deleted like old acquaintances, shoes with irreparable holes, underwear elastic worn out. I find it difficult to throw away memories, nostalgia its own intoxication, all a sore soul has when cold and sober, recounting poor decisions. A backspace is much easier than forgiveness. Moving on is much easier said when never done. I'm still here, trying to moonwalk love back to what it was while appearing to step ahead. Progress, my favorite illusion. Poetry, my best magic. Life, never a poem, always poetic and too strong for drinking.
Wow. Powerful. Moonwalk love. Tell me about that line.
Right? Trying to moonwalk love. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it is what all the doctors have said. You shouldn't do it. But it's one of the most iconic moments of TV history ever. Michael Jackson doing the moonwalk. And it's such a thing. But and it's like I think it's really like a cheap little metaphor. Like I don't think it's my best imagery ever, but the concept of moving on after a breakup, and so it's like, oh yeah, I'm moving on with my life. So it appears you're moving forward, but really, you're just sliding back.
That's funny. They say to see the world with complete honesty, one should look to comedians, artists, and poets. What do you think emerges naturally from your work?
Wait. Say it again? I'm sorry.
Okay. They say to see the world with complete honesty, one should look to comedians, artists, and poets.
Yeah.
What do you think emerges naturally from your work?
Emerges naturally from my work in regards to the truth-telling role of artists and comedians, and I think there definitely there definitely comes out a yearning for a change. I'm definitely a lot of my work is rallying against a system often. I first really got in. Like I first had people tell me I was really good at poetry, like people who weren't my mom. Tell me I was good when I was in college, and I was writing anti-war poems. And that was my way of contributing to the anti-war movement, was like writing some poems and like organizing students around it. So I think there's a truth telling, and then there's also a rebellious sort of challenging, and then there's also like many people a soul searching, like a finding of oneself that definitely comes out of my work as well.
All right, share another piece of your work, please.
All right. Wait, I don't know if I want to do this one. Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm gonna switch up and do a different short one. Can I do like a couple? Because I got a couple short ones.
Yes, please.
Cool. Boom. I did that one. Oh yeah. So the music you played made me think to do this one before. I recently did a collaboration with my friend. We got back together. She's a dancer, and she choreographed a piece to go with my spoken word. We've done it before, and so we did it again over in Northern Virginia. This is the piece that I wrote for that. This is my spot. The vibe is right. The light is light. The people down loose, no uptight a-hole wanna fight 'cause love ain't loving them right. Mean old muscle brain, white lame trying to claim space. We surrounded by aces and queens, jacks and clean, smooth operators. Vibrations deep like alligators. skin folk aren't necessarily kin folk, so I close eyes, move my body, and find guys swimming in this swamp, lean like Jah, clean like Ra. Alpha Bible women, Omega unrelenting, venting hops and hips, venting hops unhipped to next gen pop, those fighters we forgot on surrender. This is the spot to see summer spring. Let winter fall. We are here. Who you gonna call? You are here. Who you gonna call? See summer spring, watch winter fall. This is our all, our spot to be seen, and one drop of sweat. Sorry, let me take that back. This is our spot to see, and be seen. One drop of sweet in an ocean of mean. One love for all the haters in between. Thank you for coming. This is our scene. No rehearsal necessary, says the canary in American minds. That's that piece.
All right.
So that one was like more like a weird free write that like worked well with the little performance going with it, but it's like a little different from some of the other ones I noticed.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
Right.
Sorry, I'm looking for my next piece.
All right, no problem.
I'm thinking I should do I could do this one. I wrote a line to free my mind, but then got trapped inside it. Each word was mine, but couldn't find a way to get from out it. So stuck I sat with pen in lap in just one line repeating. It was not math, but simple traps to keep my mind from fleeing. A world so great yet full of hate, we seek refuge in this art. Open the gate, I cannot wait to turn paper into heart. Poem to body, books to army, armed with love and truth. Transform my hobby into sobbing, justice from the roots. Let it out, we need to shout, and yes, that is okay. Or take your doubt, whatever it's about, and whisper it away. All those feelings we're concealing can build up and explode. So like a dealer, here I'm dealing Frost's less traveled road. Cullen's song, Whitman's lawn, Giovanni's God, Hugh's bomb, Tupac's mom, E.E. Cummings' odd, Shakespeare's tragic, Sanchez magic, Ferlinghetti beat, Rumi classic, Heron's habit, Billy Collins' seat. They all took pens, said shh to friends, and wrote what they were feeling. They found their zen, and in the end, this is the dope I'm dealing. When we all die, besides just cry, they'll have our words forever. So sigh and try and look third eye and write more true than clever. More you than me, more feel, more see, but most of all, just start it. Reality and who you can be both are redefined by what your art is. You alone, your brain a home, a world in which you live. Make your dome a peaceful zone through the art you give. And that's that one right there. That's that one right there.
All right. All right. You have another short one like that?
Let me check. I'm flipping through the notebooks now. I want to get a notebook in. But
so I have a question for you.
Okay, cool.
Yes. As you think about your work, and you've probably answered this already, probably 1,000 times before too, what are you trying to communicate with your art?
I don't know if it's all cohesive into one thing. Like a lot of my art is just like some are aberrant in other areas, but I think there's a humanity that I'm trying to communicate. The ability of all of us to access the part of our empathetic parts of our being, and to be and act and to think better.
All right. What exactly is empathy?
What is empathy? The ability to be able to empathize and feel what other people are feeling.
All right.
A lot of poets and a lot of people have the ability to feel what others are feeling. and as an empath, they're able to help heal or to help understand a situation or what's going on with someone that they might not be able to explain themselves. And I find poetry helps with this in terms of increasing one's empathetic ability or ability to empathize. Listening to poems of others really helps you gain some insight.
Right. You know, one of the things that I think about when I think of empathy is that if you can't understand another person's story in totality, attempt to resonate the feelings that go along with that story, because there's a universal commonality in terms of our feelings. So I may not know your story, Jonathan, but if you talk and you share and I listen, as you just said, to the words that you share, then that will help me maybe understand you better as a person.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. More poems.
All right.
Flipping pages. Did that one. Did not do this one. For those listening, also, I just want to throw out there, jonathanbtucker.com is my website. If y'all want to check out some of my work, I also do photography. And there's a few poems up there. Actually, there's a short one there I want to read.
All right,
this
great.
One, is called Eczema. The white stomach is fragile, scared of hot sauce and beans. The white ego is fragile-er, scared of almost everything. White skin is so sensitive, reacting wildly to commonplace things, as does white fear, a rash on all continents. That's that poem.
All right.
That is that poem, Eczema.
What does being creative mean to you?
Being creative is a way of life for me. It's a way of seeing the world. It's sort of like critical thinking. It's a way of always having options, and I think always providing yourself a way forward and a way around, and it's also a way of being that is, I think, joyful or celebratory of our time here on this planet, like what we do with our thoughts and what we do with our words and what we do with our time and our bodies. The act of creating a song or a poem or whatever the art is, I think that's really a hopeful and joyful thing in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. I'm here with Jonathan B. Tucker, a phenomenal person, a phenomenal man. Jonathan, what makes a poem good? I know it's a very subjective question, but what makes a poem good?
I go back to those same things before that we were talking about, the ingredients, the truth, the feeling. Those are two of the big main ingredients that make a poem good. And then it's all just subjective in terms of whoever likes it, like what they like in a poem. A poem is good for. I love my poet friends who are good at prescribing poems, like a doctor would.
Okay.
And so they're like, oh, you need a poem for this? Oh, how are you feeling? Here's a poem for that. Here's a poem for that. Like poems are good. Poems are good for certain things. The way different herbs are good for certain things.
Yes.
And so poems are definitely they can be good for not only letting out emotion, but sort of understanding and contextualizing the world and understanding other people's and other struggles that might be far from me. When I was in college, I was with a group called Student Advocates for Education About Rape, and we would go around and we would have these sexual assault and consent workshops. And I remember writing poems and everyone going around, but for the survivors of sexual assault to be describing their stories and for them to be telling it to me, it hit in a much different way than I could have ever understood, and so it helped me understand and better be able to advocate to other men and the other people we were talking to through those workshops.
Right. Very nice. Very nice. Do you have another poem for us?
I got three more poems for you. I got a long one, a medium one, and a super short one.
Okay. However you like.
I'm gonna start with the medium one. It's
All
a
right.
cute one. This is a cute one.
Okay.
I love to say hello, hate to say goodbye, look you up and down, then look you in the eye. Yearning for the future, nostalgic for what's past, want to change the world, but we're still buying gas. Consumer and producer, are we making love, or am I just a pigeon, mistaken for a dove? That's that one. That's the medium one.
All right.
I'm gonna do the short one now. I found this one on my phone, but I like it. It's a short one, and I think I wrote this. I wrote this for Rose. I think probably. A rose awoke to another sun-filled day. Some petals will fall off, but most will stay. Bending to the closest star, a source of all things. Her thorns remain sharp, knowing what the world brings. That's that piece. I like that poem. I want to put that on like a card or something. That feels like a Hallmark poem to me or something.
Yeah, it does. It does to me too. Yeah, very nice.
All right, this one is called Poverty of Funds. I wrote it a while ago. I was living in South Africa for a little bit and doing an exchange program. I still run an exchange program bringing DC poets to South Africa and South African poets to DC. But I wrote this, I think, for a performance over there, or at least that's when I remember performing it. It's called Poverty of Funds. Pray to your pocketbook. Sing songs of account statements, hymns to earned interest. God died for a lack of funds, but the devil always has paper. Nobody wants to be Jesus. We just want his power, along with a portfolio to prevent us from ever living how he did. So we suffer for cents, compete for growing digits on a screen, hidden by secret PIN codes and security questions. My first pet is dead. The street I grew up on is filthy. You don't know my mom. Stop asking her names. You believe income, not good deeds, will save me, never minding my soul. The collection plates are circulating. Please give generously. Everyone has a cause, a project, a dream, a GoFundMe page for a poetry program so they can write whack shit in verse, perform it in a different city where people don't care just as much as people don't care everywhere about poems or people, like pockets, like hearts, like stomachs, only useful when full, only matter when they're yours, only trusted when true, only hurt when empty or full of whack shit. So I empty my whackness like my bowels. Daily, spit inside out, speak nonsense to nobody in hopes they can hear my soul shout between the lines in my gut mixed with my doubt. To thine own self be true. They said that's what poetry's about. Why do I need money, they ask, when such riches spill from my mouth? I say I'm more actual than capital, more real than any deal. Who do you work for? The earth is rich. Why are the people poor? We are walking wallets with holes in our heads, killing ourselves while not speaking to our dead. No, you can't have my money, but here's a selfie instead. It'll give you great exposure. I wonder what filter Jesus would use. Lo-fi, Hefe, X Pro 2, Rise, perhaps. Hashtag moneylenders must fall. Hashtag man crush Monday. Hashtag king of the Jews. Maybe you can see what we've been missing. The holes in my face, contorted from soulless kissing. Godless prayers in a society that cares more about profit than people. Money markets over equal access to the most basic needs. Stepping over the puddle when out onto the street a human life bleeds. Is that not our kin? Is life some slam we're trying to win by treating all the beautiful breathing poems we meet as competition, as foe? Are we losing at life every day we judge rather than love with conviction and soul? Me and my vibes think so. Are you really earning money or saving seats on a sinking throne? Are you building real community or higher walls around stolen homes? God is dead. We killed her with our greed. Nobody cares what you want until you want what they need. And we don't want for others because we breathe capitalist smoke from our lungs. Some people are so poor, all they have is money, the poverty of funds. That's that one.
That's very powerful.
It's been a while.
Powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. You know, so much is happening in the world, Jonathan. There's a pandemic, there are protests. So much is happening. What do you think, or what do you see as being the role of a poet in modern day society? We always got to reflect the times, and we have to challenge the times, and we have to push. Like you said, artists have a unique role in being truth tellers, and that's always been the case. And so, not only do we need to document the now of what is happening now and tell the truth and blow the whistle and call people back to see what's going on, but we also need to help envision the future and help create and heal. There's a lot of roles for the poet. A lot of poets you'll see on front lines protesting on streets and organizing, and but there's also a lot that are working more in other fields. It's not always the work of poetry itself, I guess is what I'm saying. Like sometimes you write the poem and then you go do the actual work of policymaking and activism and community organizing. And then other times the poetry itself can be part of the work, and it can be part of the organizing. When I was at one of the protests recently out front of the White House, this guy walked around and he was going up to people. He was saying, "Hey, you like poetry?" And he was passing them poems. I took a sheet, of course. I was like, "Yeah." And it wasn't his poems. It was Naomi Shihab Nye's poems. Which was really awesome. And so he had two poems just on this little sheet he was passing out. And I was like, that's super cute. I really liked it. It made me think I should do that. Go pass out some poems. Whose poems would you pass out?
So I mean, I guess it was cool that he wasn't passing out his own. So maybe I would do someone else's. But maybe I would do my own. I don't know.
Right. Okay.
Or maybe some of my students. I would put some of my students' work out there. Or I don't know. It depends if I'm passing it out at a protest or not. If I'm passing it out at a Black Lives Matter protest, that would definitely change who I'm picking then. Yeah.
All right. Very nice. Writers and poets write for a myriad of reasons. Some write primarily to speak a message to their audience. Others write because to stay silent is not an option. Why do you write? And you're probably saying the same thing over and over again. But I just want to know, why do you write?
Yeah, well, I mean, the last one you said there, staying silent is not an option often. That might not be where I originated with it, like my genesis in it. I think, like a lot of people, I started when I was real young, and I had some emotions, and I really liked a girl, and so I started writing poems. But it's grown tremendously, and through discipline, and through work, and through collaboration. It's turned into something that can really not only be, like I said before, an outlet for emotions, but also an organizing tool. What do I write for? Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I feel like there's a power in it, and I feel like it's it's a good way to influence people and also myself. It's a good way to check myself, and it's a good way to create oneself. I think there's a lot of self-creation that comes through writing. And like,
Mm-hmm.
who am I? Who am I if I write and read this poem? Who am I if I don't write and read this poem? And if I have these thoughts, and if I have these beliefs, and if I have the ability to make people understand or feel or empathize, who am I if I don't tell those stories that makes that happen? And so that there's a little bit of that as well in terms of the role in the community. Like you said, I host at Busboys and I host open mics, and recently I've been doing a lot more of putting other people's poems on stage and getting other people opportunities to read. And so it also becomes a question of that to me, like who am I if I take the stage and I take the mic, and who am I if I pass the mic, and how am I using that decision-making power of whether to use the mic or pass the mic, how am I using that for good and pushing, you know?
Yes, I do know. That was nice. You know, all poets have several words that come up over and over and over in their work. What are three of your absolute most favorite words to use?
Favorite words? Wow, that come up in my work specifically.
Yes.
When you were first asking the question, I was thinking back in the day when me and my friends would freestyle, I would always get on this one guy because he would always say "coming through." He'd always say, "I'm coming through with the dick, coming through," and like he's just always coming through. For me, I don't think it would be coming through for me. I don't know what it would be. I can definitely tell you three words that I just like, but like
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
trying to
Three words you like.
I'm trying to think of like the three words that most appear in my pieces ever. I'm sure the word love comes up a lot in my pieces. Oh, you said just three words I like?
Well, three words that come up. Either one. Either one.
Either or. I'm going to say connection.
Okay.
Heart. Heart is one I try when I'm editing. I'm like, why I keep saying heart? Use something else. That's so cliche. But I notice heart comes up a lot. And love, definitely love. Heart and love, I know they're similar, whatever, but like that comes up a lot. I'm sure that one comes up a lot as well.
So heart, love, and connection.
Yeah.
All right. Share another piece of your work, please.
All right. I just found this one. It's from June of 2017, and I was trying a different style of writing, and we'll see what it is.
Okay.
Style acquired, created, post-desire, post-growth, pre-sold, after hours. It speaks to me. Color contrast, match, spark interest, eyes, birds, easily fly away, fly a jay, be still. Let it seep in like lotion. Smooth edges, rough people, art in the ocean, drowns without meaning, sounds unheard of. Time a texture, feelings change, questions grow, under light waves, curve, a palm opens in yours. That was that piece. That was a weird one. That was yeah.
Would you share that one again, please?
You want to hear it back? So what
Yes.
I didn't tell you is part of the way that this form is different is that like there's a lot of periods, and so instead of writing the sentences or straight through, like every one word or two words has like a period after it, and so I was trying to read it kind of like that too. Anyway, It's called Style Acquired. Style acquired, created, post-desire, post-growth, pre-sold, after hours. It speaks to me. Color contrast, match, spark interest, eyes, birds, easily fly away. Fly a jay, be still. Let it seep in like lotion. Smooth edges, rough people, art in the ocean, drowns without meaning, sounds unheard of. Time a texture, feelings change, questions grow. Under light, waves, curve, a palm opens in yours.
I can see it with the periods. I see it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really do. Now, as you think about being a poet, and you know it, that you're a poet, what is a measure of success of being a poet?
So mine came early on, and it changed. I mean, recognition in whatever form you value it is probably the best. But I think it definitely evolves as you do with your work. And so for me, it was just seeing that whoever read it or heard the piece liked it, like that was enough. And then later, when I learned about slam and competitions, it became winning the slam or getting good scores or yada yada. Then when I started teaching poetry, it became more about the connections and the inspiration or motivation that it would bring out in other people. And so for people to say they really like that's really been some of the best, most rewarding things is when other people say that my poem inspired them to do X, Y, Z, to write this, to help them grapple with ideas or feelings or things like that. That now is like the best, the best reward and the best recognition. Of course, there's like contests and like book publishing things and all those things. And I haven't entered that world as much as I should. A few years ago, I thought I was going to really discipline myself and start submitting to journals all the time and stuff like that. And I've been published here or there, whatever, but I haven't really taken it real seriously yet. But I definitely like that. That's one of the ways that most people get recognition.
All right. Do you have another piece for us? I know we're closing out here in a few minutes, but do you have another piece?
I got pieces all day. This is another one from the notebook.
All right. Well, we will spend the remainder of our time together with you sharing your work. I want to hear more of your work.
Cool. Clouds like lions, water mains breaking, skylines above our heads, where small eyes circle huge moons and paw at stars like cubs playing spades, diamonds in our eyes, Lucy in our skies, no lying, but keep some cards off the table. I bet you that was about something before. That was the end of that piece. I bet you that was about something. I don't remember.
Well,
what
I know
it was.
there was a line in there, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I do know that one.
Yeah. I don't know if I was listening to the Beatles or if I was on drugs or what it was.
All right. And maybe it was a combination of both. You never know.
All right. Here's another one. It's summer in Joburg. I'm floating in the car to the train, mind already at my destination, body still not sure what continent it belongs on. Dust is in the air, wind-swept streets hold relics from previous evenings, men spilt off sidewalks of stone and everything discarded that is not coin or electric. The sun is a harsh lover, a rude best friend. I watch the young men pulling carts of plastic to recycling centers. Their hands and feet coordinate this hustle like a band, hi-hats and glares. That's where that one ends. That was a half of a poem. It ends right there. I just didn't go anywhere with it. But I like it. It set up a good theme. I set up the theme nicely.
Yes, you did.
There was a whole scene and everything.
Question for you. You talked about Joburg. What was it like being in South Africa?
I love South Africa. I lived in Johannesburg for about a year. I spent a lot of time in Pretoria as well. And so I go back every year that I can. And I lead these trips going back between the city of Tshwane, Pretoria, and DC. It's great over there, man. The people are very friendly. They have a beautiful poetry scene. and it's very, very connected to the theater world and music. A lot of the poets will have musical backing tracks for their pieces, which I really love. It's Joburg's a huge city. It's huge, lots of people, and there's a lot of history just in South Africa, and the struggles for decolonization they're long. Those are long struggles that we're still going through in many ways, both here in the U.S. And over there. And so, it's both very intense and very historic, and also very beautiful and very inspiring, and still lots of work to be done.
Yes, I understand. Just like everywhere else, a lot of work to be done.
A lot of work to be done. All right, I'm gonna read one from my chat book. This one's called Red Leaves. Oh wait, maybe. Actually, no. I'm gonna try this old one. It's okay. I haven't done this one forever. This is called Bring on the Trolls. So I like self-produced my own chat book. It's called I Got the Magic. But this one's called Bring on the Trolls. Underneath the bridge we've built between our communities, there lives a troll. As stubborn and unstable as our interfaith, interracial, cross-cultural unity, this troll is an ugly, mean troll, watching from below as we build relationships, forced to recognize reality like birds recognize gravity. We fly diversity flags on pirated flagship state schools built on the backs of enslaved Africans to educate the rich fools of masters with majors, and here I am with the same skin tone that masters made you think was superior, trying to build a bridge between our communities, to break down the fear in an honest dialogue. I'm not afraid of the trolls, but my image is haunting. Talking to the mixed sons and daughters of builders never broken, I'm an immigrant mutt, flaunting my assimilated strut into empty, privileged whiteness, hoping that I too have a rich cultural heritage. I know we all do. But America has buried the roots of us all like a forest flooded, but they're still here, deep in our souls like the bones of the countless bodies that jumped overboard to find peace on the floor of the Atlantic, invisible like the particles of people falling from the smoke of death chimneys, or the names of those purposefully disappeared forever, screaming, help me build this bridge, Lord, help me. Help me fashion new tools. Audrey was right. We can't use the masters, so we'll create our own language, our own bridges. No matter how troubled the water, we'll wade. We'll build an ark and sail. So bring on the trolls. Bring on the haters. We'll fill our ark with 2 of every stuffed animal and hug our enemies into submission. We can do it. We're just that cute. We can take spoken word back underground if they try to hip-hop us into killing ourselves again. We are no longer for sale. Good intentions cannot buy solidarity. And this is not meant to be disrespectful, but F your golf courses. Someone died today for lack of access to clean water. Do you know how much energy it takes to power all the lawnmowers that keep the businessmen's playgrounds trim? Do you know how many people we could feed with less than 2% of a CEO's salary? Do you have any idea what I'm talking about? Bring on the trolls. They can hang under our bridges all they want with their talk radio and light pink newspapers. The trolls, I know from experience, they're scared. The bully saw his reflection and winced. The hater broke down in tears and asked for what all prisoners asked for. I want my mommy. I want change, but I need my daddy to beat it out of me, because if you look at yourself and see an oppressor, then you too are trapped, imprisoned in life cycles of violence. This is beyond physical. Ask any survivor and they'll tell you where real pain lives, tattooed on your mind like the numbers of the forearms of children waiting in lines for trains to nowhere. Tell me what separates us. Ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, as long as you're willing to fly. Like a bird recognizing gravity. Pull me down all you want. It's no travesty to be stuck on the ground, but it's an amazing tragedy to never be found, dreaming of that sweet sound of harmony. So I'm going to keep building bridges, and you can join us, and together we will say, bring on the trolls.
Oh, wow. That was incredible. An incredible piece.
I'm
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, please Continue. You were saying?
No, I was gonna say, I haven't read that one in a long time. Like I remember writing it. I remember like why I did and all that stuff, but I hadn't read that piece in like years and years and years.
It was great. I really like that. But we've come to the end of our program, and I've got one last question for you. When people hear your work, they usually want more. What's next for you as a poet?
What is next for me? I'm gonna keep running the Azania to DC International Poetry Exchange. I'm gonna keep sharing my poetry here in DC and worldwide with my friends, and I'm gonna keep providing platforms for others to share their work and important voices that we need to hear through, whether it's through my poetry teaching artist training project, whether it's through my website or through videos. I might be writing a script. I might be writing some other things. I'm there. I'm not limiting myself to poetry. There are many different ways, and there are many different skills that we all bring to the table. And so I'm trying to find ways that I can use all my skills to push the movement forward and to make that change that we need to see both here and worldwide.
Wow, that's great. Well, I am really glad that you were here as a guest tonight. I'd like to invite you to come back whenever you'd like to come back and share some more of your work.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been lovely. I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, yes. All right. Well, have a great evening. And to our listening audience, take care and be safe. Good night, everybody.
You have just listened to the Quintessential Listening Poetry Online Radio Podcast with your host, Dr. Michael Anthony Ingram. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. And make sure to catch our next episode.